Welcome to the story of medieval Sicily, a land at the very heart of the medieval Mediterranean. For centuries, the island was more than just a geographical crossroads. It was a meeting place of empires and faiths. Long before the rise of the Norman Kingdom, Sicily had been touched by Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, and Arabs, each leaving their imprint on its soil. By the 11th century, the stage was set for a remarkable fusion of cultures that made Sicilian history unique. Here, East and West collided, faiths intertwined, and rulers sought not only power, but legitimacy through heritage. This was no ordinary medieval state. It was a kingdom born from conquest, yet sustained by tolerance, administration, and artistry that blended Arab-Byzantine culture into something distinctly Sicilian. The Kingdom of Sicily became a rare jewel, diverse, rich, and influential across Europe.
Before the Normans arrived, Sicilian history was deeply tied to the Arab-Byzantine culture. In the 9th century, Arab forces from North Africa crossed the seas and conquered the island. They transformed Sicily into a flourishing emirate. Cities like Palermo became jewels of the medieval Mediterranean, filled with mosques, markets, and advanced irrigation systems. The Arabs introduced new crops, citrus, sugarcane, cotton, changing the island's economy forever. Their scholars preserved Greek texts, translating them into Arabic and passing them later to Latin Europe. Yet Byzantium had not completely vanished. Pockets of Greek-speaking Christians remained, keeping alive Orthodox traditions, icons, and rituals. This coexistence created a society of contrasts, where Arabic courts stood beside Byzantine monasteries. By the time the Normans set their sights on Sicily, the island was already a cultural tapestry, ready to be woven into something new.
The arrival of the Normans marked a turning point in Sicilian history. These warriors had once been Vikings, who settled in Normandy, then carved out power in southern Italy. In the mid-11th century, under Robert Guiscard and his brother Roger, the Normans turned their gaze toward medieval Sicily. To them, the island was not only wealthy, but strategically vital, positioned between Europe, Africa, and the Near East. Their conquest was not swift. It took 3 decades of battles, sieges, and alliances. Yet with every fortress captured, the Normans gained ground. By 1091, Roger I completed the conquest, and the Norman Kingdom was born. This victory did not erase the island's past. Instead, it absorbed the Arab and Byzantine traditions into its foundation, forging a kingdom unlike any other in the medieval Mediterranean. Once established, the Norman Kingdom of Sicily stood as a marvel. Its rulers embraced diversity, blending Latin, Greek, and Arabic traditions. Roger II, the first true king, crowned in 1130, became the architect of this multicultural realm. Under his reign, Palermo flourished into one of the greatest cities of the medieval Mediterranean. Arab administrators managed finances, Byzantine artists decorated chapels, and Norman knights protected the realm. The result was a kingdom where Arab-Byzantine culture thrived alongside Latin institutions. Roger II also invited scholars from across Europe and the Islamic world, turning Sicily into a center of knowledge. This harmony was deliberate, a political vision that turned diversity into strength. The medieval Sicily he ruled became not just a kingdom of conquest, but a beacon of cooperation between civilizations.
The crown jewel of medieval Sicily was its architecture. Nowhere else in Europe did such beauty exist. The Palatine Chapel in Palermo, commissioned by Roger II, displayed a perfect synthesis of styles. Its golden mosaics reflected Byzantine artistry, its arches echoed Arab craftsmanship, and its structure carried Norman solidity. This Arab-Byzantine culture fusion became the hallmark of the Norman Kingdom. Churches resembled mosques, palaces bore Kufic inscriptions, and gardens mirrored Islamic paradises. These designs were not mere decoration. They symbolized a kingdom that embraced its diverse heritage. Travelers from across the medieval Mediterranean marveled at Sicily's splendor, calling it a land where East and West met under one roof. The architecture still stands today, a testament to the cultural experiment that defined Sicilian history.
Roger II's court became legendary across medieval Sicily. It was not only a seat of power, but also a melting pot of ideas. Here, Muslim scholars worked alongside Greek theologians and Latin clerics. Astronomers, mathematicians, and geographers brought knowledge from Baghdad, Cairo, and Constantinople. The Norman Kingdom became famous for its tolerance, where different faiths could coexist under royal protection. This vision of governance made Sicily stand apart from other kingdoms of the medieval Mediterranean. Instead of erasing differences, the Normans used diversity as a source of strength. Chroniclers described Palermo as a city of the world, where languages overlapped and traditions blended seamlessly. This rich cultural exchange gave Sicilian history a unique identity that endured long after the Normans were gone.
The administration of medieval Sicily was a masterpiece of organization. Norman rulers kept the Arab system of taxation and record-keeping, which was far more advanced than most European states. Arabic remained the language of administration, while Greek was used in religious and scholarly contexts, and Latin in law. This trilingual governance reflected the island's diversity. The royal chancery, where official documents were issued, stood as a symbol of this multiculturalism, producing charters written in Latin, Greek, and Arabic. Such flexibility allowed the Norman kingdom to function smoothly across its diverse population. It also made Sicily an admired model across Europe. Kings in England, France, and Spain looked upon Sicilian governance as a rare blend of efficiency and tolerance, a reflection of Arab-Byzantine culture in a Latin world.
Sicily's prosperity under the Norman Kingdom also rested on its fertile land and bustling trade. The Arabs had already introduced advanced agriculture, from citrus orchards to sugar plantations. The Normans expanded this, exporting products across the medieval Mediterranean. Palermo's ports thrived with ships carrying silk, grain, and spices, linking Europe to Africa and the Levant. This wealth allowed the kings of Sicily to commission great works of art and architecture. More importantly, it kept the kingdom stable, as farmers, merchants, and nobles all profited from its trade networks. Medieval Sicily became not just a crossroads of cultures, but a vital artery of commerce. Its role as a trading hub strengthened its reputation as one of the richest and most cosmopolitan regions of the medieval world.
One of the greatest achievements of the Norman Kingdom was the blending of legal traditions. Rather than imposing a single system, the rulers allowed Muslims, Greeks, and Latins to follow their own laws in personal matters. Muslim communities had their qadis or judges. Greek Christians looked to Byzantine codes. Latins followed Norman law. This legal pluralism was rare in medieval Mediterranean kingdoms and demonstrated remarkable flexibility. It showed how governance in medieval Sicily was shaped not by uniformity, but by accommodation. The result was stability, where communities felt respected and protected. While religious differences could not always be erased, this system of layered justice gave the island a reputation for tolerance, a feature that distinguished Sicilian history
from that of its European neighbors.
The Norman kings also understood the importance of symbolism. They presented themselves as heirs to multiple traditions: Latin kings crowned by the Pope, Byzantine-style emperors robed in purple, and protectors of Muslims on the island. This clever use of imagery strengthened their legitimacy. Coins bore Arabic inscriptions, mosaics showed Byzantine saints, and documents carried Latin seals. In a world where identity was often rigid, the rulers of medieval Sicily mastered flexibility. This fusion of identities reflected the Arab-Byzantine culture at the heart of their realm. The Norman kingdom stood as proof that power could be built not on exclusion, but on inclusion. This unique approach made Sicily a kingdom admired and sometimes envied by the courts of the medieval Mediterranean.
Under William I and William II, sons of Roger II, the Norman kingdom reached new heights. William II, known as the Good, presided over a court of dazzling wealth. The Cathedral of Montreal, with its golden mosaics, symbolized the blend of Arab-Byzantine culture. At its walls, Christ Pantocrator looked down, while Islamic designs adorned arches and gardens. This harmony of art reflected the political vision of Sicily. Yet beneath the surface, challenges grew. Feudal lords pushed for more power, and tensions between communities sometimes flared. Still, during the 12th century, medieval Sicily stood as one of the most admired realms in the medieval Mediterranean, envied for its prosperity, culture, and tolerance.
The Norman kingdom did not exist in isolation. It was deeply entangled in the politics of the medieval Mediterranean. Sicily played a role in the Crusades, serving as a launching point for knights traveling to the Holy Land. Kings of Sicily negotiated with both the papacy and the Byzantine Empire, balancing loyalties carefully. Arab rulers of North Africa also maintained ties, sometimes as allies, sometimes as foes. This strategic diplomacy turned Sicily into a key player despite its small size. The island was a meeting ground for ambassadors, merchants, and crusaders alike. In Sicilian history, this period marked its greatest international influence, when Palermo rivaled Constantinople and Cairo as a center of diplomacy and power.
Despite its brilliance, medieval Sicily was fragile. The Norman dynasty eventually weakened as succession disputes and foreign pressures mounted. After William II's death in 1189 without an heir, the throne became contested. Into this vacuum stepped the German Hohenstaufen dynasty through marriage ties. For the people of Sicily, this shift meant the end of Norman independence. The Arab-Byzantine culture that flourished under Norman kings now faced new pressures as rulers from outside sought control. Yet even as dynasties changed, the legacy of the Norman rulers remained. They had proven that a Norman kingdom in the heart of the medieval Mediterranean could thrive on diversity, not division. Their model would inspire rulers across Europe and beyond.
The transition to Hohenstaufen rule reshaped Sicilian history. Frederick II, known as the Stupor Mundi, or Wonder of the World, became one of Sicily's most remarkable rulers. Though German by blood, he was raised in Palermo, absorbing its Arab-Byzantine culture. He spoke multiple languages, studied science, and corresponded with Muslim scholars. Frederick's reign extended the Norman tradition of multiculturalism, but his empire stretched far beyond Sicily, encompassing much of Italy and Germany. While he preserved elements of medieval Sicily's tolerance, his ambitions drew the island into wider European conflicts. Still, under Frederick, Sicily retained its reputation as a place of learning, where East and West met under the shadow of a single crown.
While Frederick II's brilliance shone,
His death in 1250 left Sicily vulnerable once again. The kingdom passed through turbulent hands, papal interventions, Angevine kings from France, and eventually Aragonese rulers from Spain. Each dynasty left its mark, but none could replicate the unique balance of the Norman kingdom. By the late Middle Ages, the Arab presence had faded and the Greek-speaking communities diminished. What remained was the memory of a golden era when medieval Sicily stood as a beacon of coexistence. The kingdom had been transformed from a Norman experiment into a battlefield of larger European powers, yet its earlier cultural synthesis still echoed in architecture, art, and law.
The legacy of Arab Byzantine culture in Sicily remained long after political shifts. Gardens with Islamic designs, Byzantine mosaics in cathedrals, and Arabic words in Sicilian dialects all testified to this blending. Even as rulers changed, the people carried forward traditions of coexistence. Sicilian cuisine bore the mark of Arab spices, Byzantine sweets, and Norman feasts. The medieval Mediterranean was always a place of exchange, but nowhere was it more visible than here. In Sicilian history, the island stood as a reminder that cultures could merge to create something greater than the sum of their parts. Sicily's cultural memory outlasted its dynasties.
Travelers and chroniclers of the Middle Ages often marveled at medieval Sicily. Muslim geographers described Palermo as more splendid than many Eastern capitals. Christian pilgrims called it a land of wonders where churches and mosques stood side by side. Byzantine envoys admired its art, while merchants from Genoa and Venice sought its riches. The island's reputation spread far across the medieval Mediterranean, shaping how others viewed the balance of cultures. To later historians, Sicily became a symbol of what was possible when tolerance and pragmatism guided rule. Its story was not one of perfection, but of a rare attempt to harness diversity for greatness.
Yet, the golden era of medieval Sicily also carried lessons in fragility. The balance created by the Normans depended on strong rulers who valued tolerance. When weaker kings followed, or when foreign dynasties imposed their will, divisions re-emerged. By the later Middle Ages, much of the Arab-Byzantine culture had faded under pressures of Latinization and conquest. Still, the memory of Norman rule lingered, often idealized as a lost age of harmony. In Sicilian history, this tension between unity and division became a recurring theme, shaping its destiny through centuries of foreign domination.
The story of medieval Sicily reveals how geography shaped destiny. At the crossroads of Europe, Africa, and Asia, the island could never belong to one culture alone. Its strength came from the fusion of traditions, but its vulnerability lay in the ambitions of outsiders. The Norman Kingdom shone brightest when it embraced diversity, drawing upon Latin, Greek, and Arab legacies. This experiment in governance was unique in the medieval Mediterranean. Though the political kingdom did not last, its spirit of coexistence left an indelible mark. Sicilian history reminds us that cultural exchange can create greatness, even in times of conquest and strife.
Thus ended the tale of the Kingdom of Sicily, a land where Normans, Arabs, and Byzantines met. Born from conquest, it became a kingdom of coexistence, shining as a beacon of tolerance in a turbulent age. For nearly 2 centuries, medieval Sicily stood at the heart of the medieval Mediterranean, a stage where empires crossed and cultures intertwined. Its rulers left behind castles, chapels, and laws that reflected a vision far ahead of its time.
Though later dynasties would erode its balance, the legacy of this Norman kingdom endured. Today, the golden mosaics of Palermo and Monreal still whisper of a world where East and West met, reminding us that in the story of Sicilian history, diversity was both its crown and its destiny.